Hi, my name's Leah Lamb, and you're probably watching this video because you've received an email or landed on a page because you've just had some kind of introductory experience with me. Perhaps you found yourself in a story or in a class, but this is really for people who are new to my world and new to the realm of sacred storytelling. And after many years of doing this, I've had a lot of people come in and they're like, oh my God, there's so many different ways to play with you. There's so many different ways to engage. And I was really inspired to create a map of sorts to help you wander through the landscape of sacred storytelling as it lives in my world, and to really see if there's a place for you in it according to what you're really seeking and looking for. So I'm going to walk you through this page, and you might want to just, scroll down it as I go through it, or perhaps you just want to watch the video. Okay, so I want to start with a quote just because it's fun and it just like brings to the essence of what we're all doing here. And it goes like this. My cousin Helen, who was in her 90s now, was in the Warsaw Ghetto during World War II. She and a bunch of girls in the ghetto had to do sewing each day. And if you were found with a book, it was an automatic death penalty. She had gotten hold of a copy of Gone with the Wind, and she would take 3 or 4 hours out of her sleeping time each night to read. And then, during the hour or so when they were sewing the next day, she would tell them all the story. These girls were risking certain death for a story. And when she told me that story herself, it actually made what I do more important. Because giving people stories is not a luxury. It's actually one of the things that you live and die for. That's Neil Gaiman. And so here we go. Let's wander through and get a sense of where and how do you relate to the receiving, sharing, and telling of stories. So the first section is I want to listen. Maybe you just want to listen to stories. And so what we've created for you is this little bundle of offerings. 2 of them are 2 audio stories. The first one is called When We Were Gods. And that is a story where I took a real life situation and put it in the mythic dimension and created a story from it. So if you're curious about that technique, you might really appreciate that story. And then there's also The Day I Married a Polar Bear, which is a story that came barreling through my dreams. And then I also bring to you a 2-month subscription to The Hour of the Wolf, which is an online story council where we meet once a month right around the new moon, and I divine a story, and as a group we make sense of how is that story speaking to us. So it's a way of diving into a more ancient, mystic form of working with story. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. Perhaps you are saying right now, oh, I just want to create, I want to create stories. And so for that, we have a couple of live interactive classes. And I personally love doing live interactive classes. I'm always kind of delighted and enthralled by the kind of connection and communion that happens in this space. You get to work as a group, you have work that you do on your own, and you also work often in small groups in and out of class, depending on how much time you want to commit to the process. And there are, a couple of different classes. As I make this video, there's a class called Mythos, which is all about really getting to know your personal mythology. There's a class called Sanctuary, and there's many different kinds of sanctuary, but in the essence it's really designed to help you make sense of who you are as a creator and what makes you create what you create. It's a way of really getting to know yourself. It's a way of going inside to cultivate all those different life experiences, polish up those rough moments, cultivate them into gems, and harvest the medicine of the expression, and then transform it into a story that can be given away. And so the other thing that we do in Sanctuary, a lot of times we prepare for that, and we come out to tell the story, and we have a lot of different skills classes to build and create and receive feedback on your technique and your unique style and your unique voice of telling story. And so when you go to the School for Sacred Storytelling, you'll actually get to see what's the most recent class and how to get involved. And then there's also the Artemis Circle. The Artemis Circle is an advanced class born out of students that have been involved in this work for over the years, and they kept asking for the next advanced class, the next advanced class. And so this is for people who really want to work on their performance skills, their telling ability, but that they're also specifically taking leadership in their communities around story. That doesn't mean that you are going to go out there and talk story at schools or anything like that. It's much more that you really understand the power of storytelling as a healing modality, as a healing tool, and you understand how story really affects the world that we're living in right now, and you want to play a role in it in our times that we're living in through story. You can go to all those pages, lots more videos. Here we go. We're going to go down to the next one. And that's called I Infuse My World with Beauty. This is actually an intuitive drawing class. I don't teach this class, but I have one regular teacher who teaches her own classes fairly regularly throughout the year. And it's because people just love her classes. A lot of my classes are focused on really helping you open your creative channel and get access to that creative life force. And she does the exact same thing through drawing, and people just love her classes. And this Kristen Myers teaches that. You can take that one live, or you can also find a recording of a pre-recorded class that you can take and study on your own. Now, perhaps you're someone that says, I don't really like studying with other people, or I can't wait till the next class begins. You know, get me started tonight or today. So this next bit is for you. This is all the different options that you have to study on your own. So we have again a little bundle that we created if you want to bunch of things together. One of them is the Myth, Magic, and Medicine audio class, and this is basically an introduction to my modality and approach to working with magic in terms of, I wouldn't have said that, I'm surprised that just came out, but working with story as a form of medicine. And so it really gets you to understand what is a story, how does it run through your life, how does it affect you and influence your choices and how you live in your story. And it gives you that capacity to have magic, to influence and shape your story, and then how to give your medicine through the stories that you tell. So that audio class will take you through those that technique. You can also have access to the Master Teacher Library. This is kind of cool because it's always growing. You know, it's the gift that keeps on giving, and it has over 30 hours of classes with master guest teachers, everyone from Michael Mee to Charles Eisenstein to Carolyn Casey. It's just packed full of goods of really extraordinary people that you probably might already know, but then some absolute golden nuggets of people that you might not have already been exposed to, but will deepen your conversation and knowledge base around story as a sacred art form. And just, yeah, it's a treasure trove over there. When you get the bundles, we give you a discount, you know, so you'll see all that on the page. Now there's something else where you say, I don't want the whole class, I just want a little something to get me going. And that's what this next thing is. It's all about ebooks. So we've got a couple of ebooks for you just to help launch your creativity and keep that momentum going. And so here you have the Storyteller's Recipe book, you know, because it's not the step-by-step guide. It's sort of the ingredients that you need to make a great story, and it helps guide you in that way. And so there's that book, and then there's also the Creative Catalyst that gives you 20 prompts each day. Well, not each day, but 20 prompts. You might do them over 20 days. And then there's also this Love Story Medicine bundle. And what that is a little something where you can really work with your love story. So let's say that you have a love story where it's a little unresolved and you want to work with it and get to know it and make sense of it and alchemize it. So this little bundle will support you in doing that. You'll get a soul story. You'll get a guided meditation that supports you in telling your own love story and seeing it in the mythic dimension. And you can get either one of those on their own or all together. Okay. Now you see why I have to make a video about all this. Okay, so let's say you really want to get to know yourself as a creator, and you want to go deep and you want to go wide and you want to dive into territory that you might have never ever dove into in regards to what's living in your psychic space. So this is a class that it's a Conscious Creator's Guide to Psychic Silence, and it's really about integrating ritual and prayer so that as you understand and make sense of what is in your web of consciousness, you'll get this guidebook, and it's going to help you map out your entire consciousness. What a promise. Or at least the consciousness that you're able to see. And it's going to also give you the tools and techniques to work through the creative form with what you discover. So if you discover the thing that is your block, then let us help transform and transmute it. You know, if you're finding your greatest gifts, then let us amplify and create a clear path for that to be given. So it's really working through the creative modality to really understand who you are as a creator, what drives you as a creator, and what gets in your way as a creator. So you can get just the guidebook and do it on your own, or you can do it with a video series where I walk you through and you can do it all on your own. That is also run through the class of Sanctuary. And I would say it's a lot more fun to do as a group, but you can do it on your own as well. So let's say that by now you're like, oh, I'm on to you, Leah. You're really into kind of working with story as a tool as a healing modality. And yes, you are on to me. I come from that background. I've got a master's in social work, and I made a really distinct choice to go into the realm of working with story in terms of social change, both in the individual and for the collective. And while this work, you know, what I say is that this work can be therapeutic, but we don't call it therapy because that's not what we're signing up for here. We're signing up for it to get to dance with that creative life force, you know, the muse, and to be inspired and to play with all the things that we discover, and then engage in this beautiful, entertaining way with others. So if you're really interested in diving deep into what is it to be a sacred storyteller practitioner, you know, and integrate this work of story into your work, perhaps you're a therapist, or perhaps you're someone that just wants to get to know your own self in a deeper way in this way, this is the bundle for you. And so what's in here is the Love Story Medicine Bundle, which I already described, the Tell a Bigger Story video course. So this is a class that was actually really born to help support you if you want to learn how to work with trauma through story or experience trauma of your own. And so it brings you through a specific technique of not re-traumatizing yourself by going back to the story, but how to work with what's in it, place into the mythic dimension, cultivate different things, and help come back to help change the way that you live in this story. So it's, you know, the situation that happened will always have happened, but who you are in the course of telling your story changes. And so this technique teaches you about, or leads you through a process where you can discover that arc. And then again, there's the Sanctuary Speaker Series. Now, the Sanctuary Speaker Series is a little bit different. These folks aren't talking just about story, but really about lighting up your process of looking at if story is the sanctuary that you bring people in, what are all the metaphors and ways of which you need to prepare yourself to lead people to the sanctuary of story. So this is a very out-of-the-box story speaker series, and we have permaculturists and scent priestesses, and there's the drawing class, one of Kristen's drawing classes in here. It's a really kind of wild, out-of-the-box course that will expose you to a range of teachers and a range of expression of how to experience and get to know yourself as a storyteller. Once again, if you get the bundle, you get a little money off. It's you know, there's a theme here. So perhaps right now you've listened to all this and you're like, oh my God, this did not help me figure out where I want to start because I want it all. And if that's you, you lucky duck, we put together a big bundle for you where you can have it all. And you can have everything that I just talked about. And the only thing that I think that's different is that in addition, what you can have is 2 classes of your choice out of the School for Sacred Storytelling. So you just want to go look at our roster and you'll see a year's worth of classes up, and you can schedule whichever ones you want. So, and then you also get a private session with me, which you can either use as a soul story session or as a sacred storytelling priestessing session. So now let's just talk about what that is. Oh my gosh. So many ways we can play together. If you're still watching, I'm really impressed. So, I mentioned at the very beginning of this video that there's this thing called mystic storytelling. And there's a whole other video where I talk to you about how that came to be. But these are called soul stories, and it is a process where your story is divined for you in the moment during our session, and it plays with seeing you and how your life is playing out in the mythic dimension. And we'll talk through the language of story, ceremony, metaphor, archetypes, all those different things. And that's the territory that we'll be playing in. And so it's a great way to have a fresh and different lens to examine your life. Some people come to me repeatedly. They just like to get them a couple times a year. Some people come for special occasions. Some people come, they do soul to soul stories. That's often with their beloveds. And so it's a fun, playful way to go deep into understanding what's happening in your life and how you're living in it. Okay. Then, if you're saying, I really want some one-on-one help with my storytelling and how I'm being lived by the stories that I'm telling and how I'm creating the stories that I'm living, and in terms of performance or doing a talk or really developing yourself as a teller. And so for that, I have a one-on-one program. I only have a few slots available each year for that. And so if that's something that you're interested in doing, I call it Sacred Storytelling Priestessing, because it's not just story coaching, it's really understanding who you are as a creator and then really meeting your unique needs so that you can have the kind of breakthroughs that you're seeking to bring your stories into the world. And it's getting into the depths of who and what supports you in that process. We all need such different things to cross that threshold, and that's what this is. This is really, if you're at that threshold and you need someone to be at your side, an ally to help you cross, that's what we'll do. We'll do that good work. My gosh, that was a mouthful. I hope some of your questions were answered, and if they weren't, well gosh, now we're in really big trouble. And there's a link, so if you're interested in the Artemis Circle, if you're interested in School for Sacred Storytelling, you can, if you want private sessions, there's a link that you can use for a 20-minute information session for those programs. And otherwise, oftentimes you'll see offers for 1-hour classes that often pop up, and we'll always include you in information about those. Okay, fairly well. I hope to get to hear your stories soon.